For a brief moment Friday night, it felt like the investigation into Nancy Guthrie's disappearance had finally reached a turning point. Flashing lights cut through the dark. A vehicle was stopped in the parking lot of a fast food restaurant. Deputies and federal agents surrounded it. At nearly the same time, a SWAT team executed a court-authorized search warrant at a home just a couple of miles from Nancy's house. It looked dramatic. It looked decisive. But by morning, there were no arrests. 14 days have passed since Nancy Guthrie vanished from her home in the middle of the night on February 1st. And despite an intense search involving the FBI and the Pima County Sheriff's Department, investigators still have not publicly identified who took her or where she may be. Let's break down what happened. First, the traffic stop. Photos show agents combing through a vehicle that had been pulled over at a Culver's restaurant. Authorities have not said exactly why that car was targeted or what prompted the stop. We don't know whether it stemmed from a tip, surveillance data, or something else entirely. What we do know is that law enforcement considered it significant enough to act on immediately. Then there was the raid. Roughly 2 miles from Nancy's residence in what's described as an upscale neighborhood, a SWAT team carried out a federally approved search warrant. According to reports, a woman and her adult son live at the property. One man was detained, questioned, and later released. No charges were filed. The sheriff confirmed the warrant was based on a tip and had been reviewed and approved by a federal judge. That's important. Search warrants require investigators to present probable cause, specific evidence suggesting that relevant material may be inside a particular location. Judges don't sign off on those lightly, so law enforcement clearly believed they had something concrete pointing them to that home. But what they found, if anything, has not been disclosed, and that's where this case continues to frustrate the public. Earlier in the week, investigators conducted another high-profile operation near the US-Mexico border. A DoorDash driver named Carlos was stopped, questioned, and his home was searched. His alibi reportedly checked out. He was released. Now this latest detention ends the same way, with no arrest. Each development seems to raise hopes, only to leave more unanswered questions. Meanwhile, a critical piece of information surfaced. Investigators confirmed that DNA belonging to someone other than Nancy was discovered inside her home. It's unclear whether that DNA is connected to the masked individual seen on surveillance footage outside her house. It could belong to a visitor, worker, or completely unrelated person. Authorities have reportedly requested DNA samples from individuals who had legitimate access to the property, including hired help. Every new detail seems promising until it leads back into uncertainty. So what does this mean? It suggests investigators are aggressively following leads. They're acting on tips. They're executing warrants. They're analyzing forensic evidence. But this is a complex case, and complex cases often move in frustrating waves. Progress, followed by silence. And here's the question that now looms larger than ever. If investigators had enough evidence to deploy SWAT teams and secure federal warrants, what exactly are they seeing behind the scenes that we don't? Because the next move in this case, the real breakthrough, could already be closer than anyone realizes, and in will examine the DNA discovery, the strange activity at Nancy's home, and the key clue that may hold the biggest lead yet. Just hours before that SWAT team moved in Friday night, investigators confirmed something that could change everything. DNA belonging to someone other than Nancy Guthrie was discovered inside her home. That revelation immediately intensified the investigation, but it also raised difficult questions. Does the DNA belong to the masked individual captured on surveillance video? Or could it belong to someone who had a legitimate reason to be inside the house? A friend, a relative, a gardener, maintenance worker? At this stage, authorities are not saying. What we do know is that samples have reportedly been collected from individuals who had authorized access to Nancy's property. That suggests investigators are working methodically to eliminate innocent explanations before jumping to conclusions. Still, unidentified DNA inside the home of a woman who vanished in the middle of the night is not a minor detail. It's potentially pivotal. And then there was another moment that caught public attention, a scene that many found strange. On Friday, a pool cleaning company was photographed servicing the backyard pool at Nancy's residence. Remember, this home is an active crime scene, so seeing routine maintenance being carried out raised eyebrows. The sheriff later clarified that the service was requested by the Guthrie family. It wasn't random. It wasn't unauthorized. But optics matter in high-profile cases, and the image of a pool being cleaned while investigators search for a missing woman added to the public confusion. At the same time, speculation surrounding the family resurfaced. The sheriff stated that the Guthrie family has been fully cooperative and has complied with every request from investigators. However, when asked whether any family members had been officially ruled out as suspects, his response was clear. No one has been ruled out. That statement triggered online debate. But here's the reality in investigations like this. Until someone is charged, everyone remains technically on the table. That's not an accusation, it's standard procedure. Meanwhile, federal authorities released what could be one of the most concrete leads yet: the backpack. According to the FBI, the masked individual seen tampering with Nancy's front door, camera was carrying a 25-liter Ozark Trail hiking backpack. It's a model sold primarily through Walmart. On its own, that might not sound significant. Walmart is a massive retailer. Thousands of those bags could have been sold. But in investigations, even common items can become critical puzzle pieces. Investigators can trace SKU numbers. They can identify which stores carried that model. They can review purchase records within certain timeframes. They can analyze surveillance footage from registers. It's tedious work, but it's how cases get built. And one detail stands. Out in the surveillance video, the backpack appears full. What was inside it? Tools, personal belongings, something intended for transport. The person in the video does not appear rushed. He notices the camera. He adjusts it. He moves deliberately. Not panicked. Not frantic. That behavior has led some experts to question whether kidnapping was even the original plan, or whether something escalated unexpectedly. Adding urgency, the FBI has now doubled its reward. Information leading to Nancy's recovery, or the identification of those responsible, is worth $100,000. Money talks. And investigators are clearly hoping someone out there knows more than they've said. But here's the deeper concern. If DNA has been found, if search warrants are being executed, if federal agents are retracing backpack purchases, then what exactly are investigators waiting for? Because we'll break down the glove discoveries, the surveillance timeline requests, and the specific dates authorities are zeroing in on. Dates that may reveal this wasn't random at all. As the investigation deepens, one thing is becoming increasingly clear. Detectives believe this case may have started long before February 1st, because now they're asking the public for something very specific. Surveillance footage dating. Back weeks before Nancy Guthrie disappeared. Let's start with one of the more puzzling developments: gloves. During an extensive search of the surrounding area, law enforcement located multiple gloves scattered across different locations. According to the sheriff, some were found as far as 10 minutes east and 10 minutes west of Nancy's neighborhood. That's a wide range, but here's the catch. Investigators have not confirmed whether any of those gloves are directly connected to Nancy's disappearance. In fact, the sheriff clarified that no gloves were found inside Nancy's home or on her immediate property. So why mention them at all? Because even small items, especially something like gloves, could hold forensic Value: DNA, fibers, trace evidence, but they could also be completely unrelated. In an active investigation spanning miles, not every discovery becomes a breakthrough. Still, the fact that authorities are publicly acknowledging these findings suggests they're carefully analyzing everything. Now let's talk about the timeline. Investigators aren't just focused on the night Nancy vanished. They've expanded their search window significantly. Authorities have requested surveillance footage from a 2-mile radius near East Skyline Drive and North Campbell Avenue, an area just minutes from Nancy's home. But they're not asking for just any video. They want footage from January 1st through February 2nd, 2026. That's over a month of potential activity. Even more telling, specific dates and times have been singled out. January 11th, between 9 p.m. and midnight. January 31st, between 9:30 a.m. and 11 a.m., the day before Nancy disappeared. Why those windows? Reports indicate a suspicious vehicle may have been spotted in the Catalina foothills area around 10 a.m. on January 31st. That's not random. That suggests possible surveillance, possible planning. If someone was watching the house, studying patterns, tracking movement, this may not have been a spur-of-the-moment crime. Investigators are also reaching out directly through neighborhood apps, requesting homeowners submit any relevant video. They've even provided official verification markers, like blue check confirmations, to ensure residents know legitimate requests from fake ones. Additionally, the FBI has created a digital portal for the public to upload footage directly. And here's something that stands out. Authorities reportedly had to dig deep into cloud servers to recover the Nest camera footage showing the masked individual at Nancy's front door. At first, it was believed the footage may not even exist anymore, which raises a critical question. If investigators were able to retrieve video they initially thought was gone, what else might they uncover from surrounding homes and businesses? Because video doesn't just show faces, it shows vehicles, headlights, routes, entry and exit patterns. And when you combine surveillance footage with cell phone data, DNA analysis, purchase records and tip line information, a digital map starts forming. Officials have received tens of thousands of tips since releasing the image of the masked man. Some are noise. Some are speculation. But somewhere in that flood of information, there could be one detail, one overlooked clue, that changes everything. And now we're 2 weeks in. No arrests, no confirmed suspects, no public breakthrough. But the scope of the evidence being gathered suggests something much larger is happening behind the scenes. So we'll examine expert analysis of the masked suspect's behavior, why investigators may believe this wasn't a planned kidnapping, and what kind of break could finally bring Nancy Guthrie home. 2 weeks into this investigation, one image continues to haunt the public. A masked figure standing at Nancy Guthrie's front door. He isn't running. He isn't panicking. He doesn't even seem rushed. That behavior alone has sparked serious debate among investigators and former detectives analyzing the footage. When experts reviewed the surveillance clip, one thing stood out immediately. The suspect does not move like someone executing a high-speed abduction. Instead, his body language appears almost casual, deliberate, measured. He notices the doorbell camera. He adjusts it, but he doesn't bolt. For many seasoned investigators, that detail is critical. In crimes involving targeted kidnappings, time is everything. The suspect typically wants to get in and out as quickly as possible. Speed reduces risk. Speed reduces exposure. Speed increases the odds of escape. But this individual doesn't behave that way, which raises a chilling possibility. What if kidnapping was never the original plan? Some experts believe the suspect may have initially intended something else, possibly burglary. Perhaps he believed the home was empty. Perhaps he had observed Nancy leaving earlier and didn't realize she had returned. If that's true, the crime may have escalated unexpectedly, and if it escalated, that could explain the lack of a clean, calculated execution. Of course, that's theory, not confirmation. Meanwhile, investigators continue to operate largely out of public view. Hundreds of personnel are reportedly involved: FBI analysts, local detectives, crime lab specialists, digital forensic teams. Every piece of evidence is being processed, and there is one development many believe could be the turning point: the unidentified DNA recovered from inside Nancy's home. If that DNA matches someone in a criminal database, it could trigger an immediate breakthrough: a name, a history, a suspect. But if it doesn't match anyone in the system, the path becomes more complicated, because then investigators must build outward, comparing voluntary samples, cross-referencing records, and slowly narrowing the field. Another factor: working in law enforcement's favor, criminals make mistakes. There is no such thing as a perfect crime. Somewhere, whether it's a purchase receipt, a traffic camera capture, a discarded item, or a conversation someone overheard, there is a loose thread, and investigators are pulling at every single one. Still, public frustration is growing. Online speculation has exploded. Rumors circulate daily. But seasoned detectives caution against reading too much into what hasn't been publicly disclosed. In major investigations, authorities often reveal only a fraction of what they know. In fact, former law enforcement officials estimate the public may be aware of less than 5% of the total evidence being evaluated. That means critical developments could already be unfolding quietly. What kind of break could change everything? It could be the DNA result. It could be a verified tip from someone who recognizes the backpack. It could be surveillance footage that captures a vehicle entering and leaving the area at just the right time. Or it could be someone close to the suspect deciding they can no longer stay silent. Because rewards have increased. The FBI is offering $100,000 for information leading to Nancy's recovery or the identification of those responsible. That kind of pressure can shift loyalties. As of now, Nancy Guthrie remains missing. No arrests, no named suspects. But the scale of this investigation suggests one undeniable truth. Law enforcement is not slowing down. The question is no longer whether investigators are closing in on something. The question is, when they do, will it lead to Nancy being brought home? And when that next major development happens, it may come faster than anyone expects.